Hello people who live in my camera, I got new hearing aids. You know, if you couldn't guess what this video is about from the title of it, or the thumbnail, I got new hearing aids. Let's talk about it. So, the old ones got stolen. Not intentionally, I don't think. Basically, let's rewind this clock a little bit. If you've been with me for a while, you'll know I used to live in Nottingham, and that's where I got all of my audiological care and where I found out that I had a hearing loss. Also where I found out I had a visual impairment. Different video up there. And then it's where I got diagnosed with audio processing disorder on top of my hearing loss, and where I got my hearing aids for the first time, and where I learned how the world sounds. And then I got a job, and I upped and I moved to Cambridge. And you see, something that was always on my list that I never quite got round to was going to audiology here. So I didn't sign up to audiology. I just didn't. Whatever I was supposed to do, I did not. Because things were okay. My hearing aids were great. They were working at work. I could sort of hear people. And there was not really a need to add that level of disruption into my life. So when my ear molds started to become a little bit painful, I was like, oh yeah, you know, I'll do that. Didn't. And then I was out one day at a bar. I couldn't really hear anyway because it's a bar and hearing aids are not magic. So I took them out, put them in their little case, put them in my jacket pocket. At some point got warm, took my jacket off, put it on my chair, jacket stolen. I like to think that when they went through the pockets they felt bad, but apparently they didn't feel bad enough to take the hearing aids back to the bar. Even my jacket, there was nothing in it. All my money and keys and stuff were just in my jeans pockets. Should have put my hearing aids there, but... So, the next process that happened was I had to make a phone call, which, without hearing aids, challenging. Not impossible, because I'm not profoundly deaf. I'm close to the mildish, moderate-ish area. It's complicated by the audio processing disorder because the sound that does get into my ear, my brain goes like, well, what do I do with this? But I made a phone call, and I think it was evident. You can tell how the phone call went by the fact that they did not argue with me when I said, hi, I need to go to audiology. Why do you think you need to go to audiology? Huh? Little exaggeration, but there were parts where she was asking me questions I couldn't hear. So it kind of just like, we'll send that referral off for you. But in order to get that phone call, I could book online for the phone call, but it was a 3-week wait. So I went online, booked my little telephone appointment, got my telephone appointment, immediate referral, 9.5 weeks to get into audiology, had a repeat hearing test, talked about audio processing disorder, and got new molds fitted. Well, I got the impressions taken. This was interesting because I thought that audiology was just audiology, but it turns out they do it differently in different hospitals. And some hospitals don't really believe in audio processing disorder and setting up hearing aids in a way that accommodates your audio processing disorder, so there was that side of things. But in general, well, there were no real problems. It was like, you know, kind of well recorded, and I was coming in being like, I just need new hearing aids, that's all. And then 6.5 weeks after that initial appointment, I got my hearing aids fitted, which was fine. They do the thing where they do all the tests with the stuff, they put them in your ears. And then there was an 8-week follow-up where I could talk about issues and get things fixed. So in total, when you are not on the audiology books and your hearing aids are gone, or broken 27 weeks without hearing aids. So what actually happened in each appointment? I haven't done this for a while. Obviously we don't get letters anymore. I actually don't know if my address is up to date, to be honest. I might have got letters. But I'm not going to read through all of the different letters like I did the first time around. If you want to know what you can expect from what letters, apparently just from the Nottingham team, I will link, God, I'm so out of practice, somewhere up here, I think it's this one, the first video in my series of getting hearing aids the first time. You can also find it in my hearing loss playlist. Maybe I'll just do it there. Who knows what I'm going to link in the mysterious place of the boxes. So what happened in each of my sort of follow-up, sort of not appointments. So as I hadn't been seen by Cambridge Audiology ever, or by any audiologist in about 3 years, give or take, we started from scratch. So we did a brand new hearing test, still deaf, shocker. We discussed tinnitus, we discussed audio processing disorder. So Cambridge, as I've sort of mentioned, they don't really do APD testing or treatment like Nottingham does. They do believe it is a real thing, which is super helpful, I'll be honest. But they don't care. They acknowledge that it has an impact on people's lives. Like when we were talking about it, she did say, yeah, this is having an impact on your life. I believe that you have it, I believe that it's real. Great. And then she's like, but we don't treat for it. It doesn't factor into any of our plans. We don't typically put hearing aid volume louder to accommodate. We just don't. And I'm like, okay. I would very much like if you would though. But that's out of my control. I tried to advocate the best that I could, but that's a bigger fix than me just going, but please. So we talked about new hearing aids, and we talked about the last time that the NHS tried to give me brand new hearing aids just on the fly, and how my brain did not really cooperate with that. It was an unexpected change for me, and you know, my little neurodivergent noggin in there was not hyped about that. And then the anti-tinnitus noise or whatever it was, there was like a hissing which gave my visual impairment a sound, which was distressing. So we talked about the fact that they would not be replacing my hearing aids with the brand that I already had, which was Phonak. They would be replacing them with a different brand. And they had said it was going to be the same brand as I had before. It wasn't Phonak. I can't remember the name of it. That actually turned out to be incorrect. It's Oticons, which are, in my opinion, great, but we'll get there. But I was prepared this time. I knew it wasn't going to be the same. I was prepared for some sort of hissing noise. I was prepared for an adjustment period because I was initiating it, needed a replacement. Had my ear mold impressions taken. They were sent off to go be made, whatever they do there. We talked about colours. It's still very much the case that if you are an adult, you get boring adult colours and you don't get fun colours for hearing aids or for moulds. You can get coloured moulds, but you are limited to, I think, red, blue or clear. I think it would just clash too much with, this is meant to be green, it's not in its green phase. But I think it would clash with everything else that I am, so I just opted for the clear ones. So in my next appointment, when I actually got my hearing aids, I saw that they were Oticon and I was like, oh, haven't tried this one before. I did get them in black. I haven't shown you these yet. I got them in black. Here they are. I'm not wearing them at the moment for hair reasons. I washed my hair today. Gold star for me. You might be able to tell by just this. It's still a bit damp underneath, and hearing aids and dampness are not great, but you can try and pick a cleanest one. Ta-da! That is one hearing aid. The other one looks exactly the same. We did all the standard inner ear sound measurements. I have sensitive inner ears, so it's always unpleasant fitting the little probes with the hearing aids. More excitingly, we set up Bluetooth mode because my first set didn't have Bluetooth at all, and then the ones that replaced my Phonax that I hated, they did have Bluetooth, but only to control sound, and I couldn't make the hissing go away. This time, there is everything. I got it on my phone. I now have it pinned to my accessibility shortcuts, which is so exciting. And yeah, it was a very uneventful hearing aid fitting. It was like, you know, put in, push buttons, right, bye. They gave me some batteries, very few amount, and some tubes just in case, and then just set me on my merry way. And then I got home and I realised that my left hearing aid had been fitted with the right mould, and vice versa, my right hearing aid left mould. So I pulled those apart, put them, I righted them, corrected them, and then I realised the tubes were a bit small for the mould because they just kept coming out. So I had to put some sellotape around the end of the tube to give it a bit more thickness so it would fit and stay in the mould. There's no need to panic because I knew I was having a 4-week follow-up that turned into an 8-week follow-up, and then that sort of worked and it was fine, and it was just getting used to the new quality of sound, the features, the buttons, how they work, didn't work. So in my follow-up it was, hey, how are they? They're great. However, so the issues that I fixed, well, I asked them to fix, was turning the volume up. So she turned the standard volume up to where I had been having it, and then there's a bit plus or minus either side. And then we also fixed the tubes. She gave me bigger tubes. Didn't give me any spares, but I have another follow-up at some point soon. But yeah, thicker tubes so they will stay in, and more batteries. I have different batteries now. I have upgraded from brown batteries to orange ones, and that was it. It was just really, really dull. This is why I didn't do it all in like a series of updates, because like how would I make a video out of that? So that's all the appointments out of the way. I've got another I'll have my 6-month follow-up at some point. So we'll see how that goes. But how are they? They are brilliant. The sound quality is great. It's not giving my visual impairment a noise. It's giving everything else a noise, which is great. I can hear people nice and clearly when I wear them. And it doesn't, they're not as, so Phonak, they all have like speech recognition-y bits and stuff in the software, not an expert, but the computers in them try and like pick out speech noise and amplify that over background noise, and Phonak would recognise my tissue culture hoods, so I'm a scientist if you're new here, I'll put something up there, but my tissue culture hoods, they sound like a vacuum cleaner, and Phonak would be like, that's somebody speaking. These guys, not so bad. Articon can sort of tell me that the tissue culture hoods are not speech. So they don't amplify those over the people trying to talk to me in the lab, which is great. Aside from the obvious hearing benefits, the Bluetooth mode I'm getting so much use out of. So Google Maps, I don't know if it's just me, but my Google Maps will not stream the directions into headphones, Bluetooth headphones, or corded headphones. It won't give you directions through headphones. I've pushed every button I can. But it will give me directions through my Bluetooth hearing aids. So I don't, like when I'm on my bike, I don't have to like look at the map to see where I'm going. I get it in my brain, which is, you know, much safer than looking down at my map when I'm cycling on the road. The live listen is also great, so I've been doing a lot of camping recently, hence why I missed a video last month. So when there's been like stuff going on in the field, I can just give my phone to whoever's speaking and it'll stream into my hearing aids, which is really good for like workshops or rituals when you're all in a big circle. Also a druid if you're new, because my hearing aid videos get everywhere. The ability to like check on my battery percentage using my phone and change the volume using my phone. Mwah! Brilliant, because I need to know if I have battery power. Like if I'm just going down to the shop, don't always think to take a pack of batteries with me because it's like 5 minutes to the left. But if my hearing aids run out and they're talking behind that plexiglass and I'm just like, what are you saying? And then I can play music and stream podcasts through my hearing aids, which brings me joy because I have quite a long commute to work every day, well, to and from. So it's perfect, like one podcast on the way in, one podcast on the way back, and it's better than having my clunky over-the-ear headphones with my hearing aids still in, because that's quite painful and quite a lot on the head. So just being able to stream it through my hearing aids is mwah. And I can also turn the microphones off of the hearing aids so I can hear my podcast better if I'm on the train and it's being loud, which I think is brilliant. Some downsides. This piece here, this clear plastic piece, is called an elbow to at least some other people. It doesn't detach. As far as I'm aware, it doesn't detach. It doesn't look like it detaches, and I have given it a fair pull. The issue with it not detaching is you can't replace it. So if some of the tubes, if you leave the tubes too long and they harden, they will damage the end of the elbow, so when you try and put new tubes back on, it doesn't always work. With the Phonax, I could replace that. I can't replace this one. So then I would have to go back to audiology, start again, get a new hearing aid, probably pay for it. They didn't make me pay for these this time because they were stolen. They were also way out of date. So, but they probably would make me pay to repair that. And also makes it difficult to decorate them. And I love decorating my hearing aids. I like having like a bonus earring. So I need to get something that's going to go around the tube instead. But we'll go with that. At the moment I don't have any tubes to change them anyway. I might also just be too scared to twist it with the force that it needs to detach. So I will ask in my follow-up so that I can get back to decorating, looking cool, and being able to just replace it if I need to. Another downside that I'm having is it gives me almost no time between the first I don't have any battery left to dying. So Phonak would give me an hour. There was some days where it just beeped all day. And I'm like, okay, I don't really trust this first beep. This, you trust the first beep. You don't wait because it gives you 0 minutes before it switches off, which is not great. Oh yeah, another thing as well with not being able to remove the elbow is I can't clean the tubes properly. It's like a game of fishing, but with wax and the old cleaning tubes I had for my when I had domes in my old hearing aids. It's just not fun, and sometimes there is wax that clogs the tube, and that sounds gross to people who are not initiated into the world of hearing aids. It is a bit gross, but it will literally, if you have too much wax in it, it will literally stop the sound coming in, which is not what you want. This is just my little pack. It's not super exciting, it's going to make a lot of noise, so I'm not going to touch it or go through. Basically it has little instruction manuals for the hearing aids. There's number 1 and number 2. It's just basic hearing aid stuff. I mean, I can read through them if there's particular need or request, but I don't think it's necessary. So that has been my journey to new hearing aids. I hope that's been entertaining, informative, whatever. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a like. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. Any comments down below, I try to answer them. I don't get a lot of time to answer YouTube comments, so be patient, I guess. Ring that notification bell so you get notified every single time I upload a new video. I try to do it once a month, somewhere in the middle. I've missed it a fair amount. That's why the bell was important. See ya.